Live from the Fox Sports 1380 studio.
Andrew's off the bench, by the way. You can come back into the game.
Remember that game show? It was from Japan, and they did voiceovers here, and they did all these like,
most extreme elimination challenge.
Yeah, most extreme elimination challenge. That show was great.
Of course, Andrew would know that.
hey, that show was great.
It's the tipping point.
Well, it was on the old Spike TV.
It was hilarious.
Oh, I used to love Spike TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it
That's
used to be
great.
good.
With Mike Tipton.
The fact that he remembered that, though, point Andrew.
That was
There it
great
is.
for him.
Give himself a ding.
He lit up and came off the bench and dunked on everybody.
I know what you came here to see. If you're afraid, then you come on with me. And I know what you came here to do. Now bust it open, let me see you get loose. It's going down for real. It's going down for real.
It is the tipping point with my Tipton Fox Sports 1380. I shocked myself with how loud some things can be sometimes, Andrew. I got my dude, Andrew J. Polk, hanging out with me as well. You can check out his show Monday through Friday, Talk El Paso, on our partner station, KTSM AM 690, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Always covering some of the biggest issues, not just in El Paso, nationally, statewide, as well as we continue to navigate and meander through what seems like the end of days.
You may not be totally, but you can see it from here.
The end is on the horizon. I'm not going to be that nihilistic about things, Andrew. I'm going to try to be a little more optimistic.
I mean, it might be for some conferences, but that's a different story.
Yes. Look at that segue right there. Let's just go ahead and jump into it then, right? Like, why in the hell not? There's so much going on. So let's just get into the opening tip.
It's time for the opening tip.
The tip was just flat out sensational. Ladies and gentlemen, it's game on.
It is the opening tip on Fox Sports 1380. Thank you all so much for tuning into the show, whether you're doing that on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, on all the different places that we're streaming. Fox Sports 1380 proper.
Of course.
A little bit later on today, we are going to have an interview with Shane Munoz from Water Softener El Paso. He is hosting a 5K to help out sarcoma. He is a survivor of sarcoma.
Wow.
He's got a great story to tell along with that, so I hope you stay tuned for that in just a little bit. But there's only one way, Andrew, one way you can knock the NFL off the front page of any newspaper, who the hell reads a newspaper, any website, off the scroll on ESPN, even though it's the dog days of summer and no one gives a crap about what's going on in the NFL right now, it still dominates the sports landscape. College football and the NBA has come to help us out with this.
Yeah.
Yesterday, if you were living under a rock, you didn't hear that UCLA and USC are going to say au revoir to the Pac-10 and join the Big Ten, which will now be the Big, I think they've already got 12, so it'll be 14.
I thought they already had. I think this will make it 16.
So the Big 16, the Big 18, the Big 69,
The
who
Big
cares?
Infinite.
Yes. The ever-expanding universe of the Big Ten will just keep growing and growing and growing. I, for one, welcome this chaos.
Of course you do. That would be like your cry for help. You've been kidnapped. If you're like, no, this is too much chaos. No, God, we can't handle that.
I think I've had my fill of chaos. That would be how everyone knows I'm in trouble.
Blinking SOS. Yeah.
But part of the reason is because I was with Texas and Oklahoma whenever they wanted to leave the SEC. Obviously, the Big 12 isn't going to get the TV deals. They're not getting the respect conference-wise whenever it comes to how the voters look at the NCAA college football playoff, right? So obviously it's going to be the SEC. I think this year was the second time in the last 3 years that it was two SEC teams playing for a championship, the national championship.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see where the landscape was going on that. Along with that, since its inception, it's either been an SEC team or a Big Ten team that has won the championship outside of whenever Clemson has done it. I think Clemson's done it twice in the last 12 years. Right?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
You have to kind of look around the sports landscape. And if you're USC and if you're UCLA, even though they're not huge names when it comes to football anymore, you have to look at it and say, yeah, the Pac-10 ain't getting any love. The Pac-10 was always that kind of forgotten conference because and I feel confident saying this, especially if you do anything with sports, as our guy Rick Kern is saying, two of El Paso's best going at it right here. Maybe Andrew, me, not so much. But if you look at the Pac-12 and you look at the way that they were basically being, shunned because all of the sports times that are taken up on Saturday are going to start 9 o'clock our time, so 11 o'clock Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
All the big games are happening roughly 5, 6 o'clock our time, 7, 8 o'clock Eastern, right? The big games for the Pac-12 were happening at like 9 o'clock our time.
Yeah.
11 o'clock Eastern. No one's watching those games. Again, that's more of just time zones and how that stuff works and that silly nonsense. But if you're UCLA and if you're USC and you're in the second largest market in this country, in LA, you need those eyes on you. So why wouldn't you say, okay, we need to expand our conference, become a more, viewed product, because who the hell's watching those outside of diehard fans?
Yeah, that's true.
So at the end of the day, it's about money.
Always is.
College athletics is about money. What?
Gasp, shocked Pikachu face.
Yes, sir. I for the life of me can't understand how these people are walking around here thinking that it's like this utopian world that we live in where, oh my Lord, it's all about the athletes. Now,
it practically never was.
No. I mean, and if you subscribe to this thought process of it's always about the athletes and it's about going out there and giving 110% and we're all going to have a good time and play a sport we love, you are drunk. It's about money.
Yeah, you drank that Kool-Aid of those slightly saccharine sweet, NCAA ads and, UIL ads about, oh no, these are student athletes and the student comes first. It's like, sure, for all like the secondary teams, but you've been wondering about how these student athletes just happen to be driving around Escalades for years here, even before it was out in the open. Like, come on, my dude.
Student athlete. We don't have Rivera here to hit the button. Oh, Stephen Michael Puga saying UTEP to the Pac-12 in 2024. Sincerely doubt it, my guy. Because
did the rest of the Pac-12 explode? Is that what happened in this scenario?
I think that's the future. Okay. And the reason why is because I feel, honestly, like my thought process is I feel like there's going to be two conferences whenever it comes to the NCAA, at least the way that we're looking at the way that they crown a champion in football. It's going to be the SEC because you have Texas, you have Oklahoma going over there. The Big Ten just added UCLA and USC, which leaves the door for the Big Ten to start adding more teams. So if you're the Big Ten, why wouldn't you go after Oregon, who has a huge connection in Phil Knight, the owner of Nike?
No, that's true. Yeah, forgot about that part.
That's where he wants to be, in that spotlight. That's why he donates so much money to that damn school that hasn't won anything since Ahmad Rashad.
That's how you really feel, Tip.
Well, no, but that's the thing is a lot of people don't realize that Ahmad Rashad played football before hosting like inside stuff on like the NBA inside stuff. Whenever I was a kid, Ahmad Rashad is pushing like 75, and he looks phenomenal for his age. Also, number 85 on the Man Crush list.
Very specific.
Yeah. Well, again, there's 100 people on the Man Crush list sliding down ever so slowly as Ahmad Rashad as he gets up in age. Still good looking dude, right? But anyway, I feel like what would be best, because now we get to play musical chairs with these conferences, right?
Oh God, yeah.
Texas is already gone from the Big 12. So is Oklahoma. That was the lifeblood of that conference. That conference is going bye-bye. UTEP's got a better chance going into that conference than they've got anything else, and they don't deserve to be in that conference. That conference is probably going to dissolve. It's going to go to the wayside, similar to the way that the Pac-12 is going to go. Because if you're the Big 10, why wouldn't you go after Oregon, as I mentioned? Why not get Cal? They don't want to be in the SEC. So if you're the SEC, now you've got to go after bigger name teams, right? Clemson in the ACC. Let's go get them.
Yeah.
If you're the Big 10, because I love the chaos that this all causes, right? Mm-hmm. If you're the Big 10, who do you get that has an ACC conference schedule? Not an ACC team, but they need to be in a conference if they want to survive and actually thrive. You go get Notre Dame. They're in Indiana, which fits your demographic.
Yeah.
And then if you are the SEC, you go and you get that rivalry that everyone loves. So you add in Florida State and you add in Miami, who have built-in rivalries within their state and also play against Florida, who is already a member of the SEC. I love this because it's showing again just the blatant greed that college athletics is, because it's all like a huge money grab. But it's also, now you're seeing something that I don't think we ever saw before in the history of sports. And I didn't think of it in this concept until David Sampson, former president of the Miami Marlins, mentioned this on his podcast. Nothing personal. Check it out if you're really into business and how it intertwines with sports, the business aspect of sports. This is conference and university free agency.
Yeah. Honestly, the way I'm kind of been thinking about it is the way, and I've always been a little bit jealous of it, not that I'm a huge, European soccer stan, but the way that they have their essentially grassroots teams that are now well ingrained, but came up that way. We don't really have that around here. Everything has been so corporate from the beginning, except for universities. That's been basically about the only way, because over there, they'll have hometown teams that came up just because random people in their town wanted to play, and now have been so ingrained. This is the closest we're going to get, and that's essentially what we're seeing here, that these different organizations that are not, it's not this, everything is so top down otherwise in the U.S. when it comes to any sports league, because they were designed that way. This is the only way where it's bottom up, and that's what creates these possibilities.
The best thing for me about this whole thing is that you're watching firsthand something that people just dreamed of. It was a couple of years ago that everyone was like, oh, this super conference thing will never happen. As soon as last year came around and Texas and Oklahoma were like, nah, we're going after that money that's in the SEC, and we want that TV time. Because the Big 12 network, known as the Longhorn Network, after the school that built the entire damn conference, whenever that school decided, okay, I'm going to take my money and go to another place to make more money. And the best part about it is it's all just wide open and out there now, right? Just the blatant greed, the money grabs, NIL. You are Texas. You got a lot of oil money pulsating through that university, and a bunch of old dudes that are pissed off that Texas hasn't won a championship since 2005.
Yeah.
These dudes are going to be buying players, much like what they just did with Arch Manning. Yep, that name, right? I wonder, Arch, Eli, Peyton, Archie. Wow. The legacy of that. As soon as Arch Manning declared that he was going to go to UT, 7 of the top 20 recruits in the country committed to UT. Why? Because Austin's a pretty damn cool city, and they got a buttload of money that they can spend on NIL deals. I wouldn't be surprised if there's someone at UT basically giving these kids an LLC and saying, just make whatever money you want, because that's what it is now.
Yeah, absolutely.
100% what it is now. So why not let the big boys who have all this money that they can just throw around at everybody cannibalize one another, and then create like another, it used to be called the Group of Five. I think it should just be called What's Left.
Honestly,
the bottom feeders.
Well, honestly, there's a way that they could do that. And again, if you're going to look at the European sports leagues, it's already laid out. I would see this. I mean, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed.
Like relegation?
Yeah, a promotion-demotion system.
So
that way that you even incorporate the smaller teams and you give them a reason to stick with you, because, hey, you do the work, you could end up in the top tier. That kind of a thing. Imagine it. Like, my cloudy crystal ball is cloudier than ever, so I'm not going to call this is going to be happening anytime soon. But honestly, on a spectrum of never going to happen to possibility, feels like we're moving closer towards it being a possibility.
Well, see, and that's the thing that I was thinking of too, is like if I'm the SEC commissioner or if I'm the Big Ten commissioner, I am getting on the phone with these bottom feeders like Vanderbilt and Rutgers.
You still need a few to smack around kind of thing.
Well, no, I'm saying, what do you bring to my conference? Because if I'm the SEC, TCU's been good for the last 2.5 decades.
Yeah.
Houston is on the come up. Why wouldn't you get rid of Vandy, who has done nothing for the better part of a century and a half? UTEP East is basically what they are. Get rid of them, bring in a Houston. Let's see what you can do. You want to be against these big boys? UCF has a claim to a national title in 2016 because they were the only undefeated team in college football at that point in time whenever Bama won. I guess it was 2017 or 2018. Either way, they beat Auburn an SEC team in their bowl game to remain undefeated.
Yeah.
Why not bring them in and say, you want to run with the big boys? Here's your opportunity. I like the idea of relegation
Yeah.
and being able to have the promotion demotion thing because, again, it makes it more competitively balanced and it forces your franchises, because let's not kid ourselves anymore. These are not universities anymore. These are franchises. It forces these franchises, UTEP, I'm looking at you, to be competitive if they want to succeed. What I was going to say is, why not just create a secondary title? You let these guys get their title, and you can have, like, we're the NIT, basically, of college football. Because the rest of these bottom feeders, UTEP, New Mexico State, New Mexico, Air Force, I love the Air Force. They're never winning a title. Army, Navy.
Army, there's a reason to go Army beat Navy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But for me, it's, and then I think the game was like 13-10, and one pass was thrown in the entire game. It's 2022. How come the military schools haven't learned how to throw a forward pass? How are you the Air Force and you don't pass the anyway? I need to calm down.
Triggered.
Very much so. Throw a damn pass. More than one. Air Force won like 2 games last year without throwing a ball at all. I think at the end of the season, their quarterback had 17 attempts.
I mean, that's kind of impressive in its own right, to be honest with you.
It's not 1920. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that we wanted to dedicate the studio as a joke for UTEP.
The winningest percentage coach.
Yeah, but this is like in like the 1920s, so whoever the hell that guy was. But he's not coaching the game anymore, right? Like Red Grange ain't out here doing his thing. I just want to see what this creates, right? Because I love the concept of just playing musical conferences with these universities. And I hope that the fans, and I know our guy UTEP Minero got at me on Twitter and was like, well, it's not like UT is going to win a title. Do you think UT cares about winning titles? Their alums do. Yeah. You as fans do. That school cares about making money. That president is there. All presidents are in these universities to find a way to bring in more revenue. That's what their job is. So if you can go over to the SEC, make a butt ton of money, why on God's green earth wouldn't you? Even if you get slapped around a little bit, eventually the recruits are going to go, because I asked the question again. Would you rather go to Baton Rouge, maybe because it's close to New Orleans? Would you rather go to Norman, Oklahoma, Junction, Texas, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Gainesville, Florida, or Austin, Texas?
Yeah, that's not exactly a hard question.
That is your recruiting advantage. Not to mention, no knock on the alums of these other universities. They are not Texas. Texas's recruiting tool that we have over a lot of these other schools now is, if I give you an NIL deal, you get to keep all that money because we don't have a state income tax.
That's true.
So why go to another university in another state that has a state income tax? You're getting a certain percentage of your money taken away. Why not get all of it here in Texas?
It's not even, I mean, it's one of the more recognizable names. Like, who was it? Ohio State just successfully trademarked the word the.
Yeah.
Because they had to be the Ohio State. Like, I mean, they got in-state rivalry there over the damn name here. But meanwhile, you say Texas, you know exactly who you're talking about.
And that's the thing, is like there's a million schools in Texas, right?
Yeah, there's tons.
But whenever you say Texas, you know who you're talking about. It ain't UTPB. It ain't UTEP. It ain't even Texas Tech, and I love that damn school. Feel bad for them because they're going to be left in the outs.
Yeah.
Get used to that cold shoulder. You thought Texas loved you, the University of Texas. They don't. They don't need your rivalry. The rivalry they cared about the most was with A&M. They got that rivalry back because A&M's already in the SEC. You got to keep your rivalry with Oklahoma because they went to the SEC with you. And they're going to make, just for transferring over, the schools $180 million.
And there it is.
Again, please, for the love of God, sports nerd out there, tell me how college athletics isn't a money game. Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Whenever we come back on the Tipping Point, my Tipton Fox Sports 1380, my interview with Shane Marquez. We're going to talk about a 5K that he is doing July 24th at Album Park, 9 o'clock. He's teamed up with Texas Tech physicians, and they're going to be doing a 5K to help out sarcoma. We'll listen to his story coming up next on The Tipping Point with Mike and Fox Sports 1380. Those of you that are listening on the stream,
Live, as it were.
you're not going to get that interview. There's a lot of little video editing things that I would need to do to get that video on there, but I have the audio. I'm not going to play it here, though. Andrew and I are going to continue talking a little bit. This is going to be, I guess, a podcast or stream exclusive.
There you go.
There we go. I like the way that sounds. I want to get other people's opinions on this, though, because, like, I know I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Because it's just an absolute middle fingers to, like, the fans.
Yes and no. I'm honestly going to say that, let's be honest, unless you lived in one of, cities, college towns, or went to there, honestly, a lot of your loyalty would have relied on about, that. Essentially that. There's not a whole lot of people who are going, oh, I like Texas. They're just such a good team. It's no, I went to Texas, family went to Texas, family. Like, it's all these connections here. So what I'm going to say, particularly if we get into that, relegation system potential there, that would add a whole nother level of narrative that would then possibly, let's be honest, draw in more fans. Because that's something like, sure, you got your rivalries, you got that, but you add on a whole nother level of, and they kicked them out of the league with this win. Like, you cannot tell me that is the kind of drama that people frankly crave.
I could see that. I'm gonna Google up right now because it wasn't something that I had initially thought of. So I'm glad that you kind of brought it up. But I want to Google like how many schools. I'm already thinking about that. But how many teams in European soccer have been relegated or promoted? I want to say it's like one a year.
Yeah, I think like winner of the lower league moves up, last place of the top league moves down, kind of thing.
And it's like a constant revolving door.
Exactly. So like if you're put it in NFL terms, like, sure, the Dolphins may have been top of the league back in their day when they went undefeated, but now they might have dropped down to a lower league if such a system existed. So you cannot tell me that level of drama isn't fantastic.
Dude, I would love that because, like, imagine like with the USFL or the XFL, right? Like if you're the Browns, whenever you went 0-16, and then your contract just gets taken away down to the XFL. And whoever the XFL champion was, the Dallas Renegades, now they have to play against the Dallas Cowboys. And, like, let's see how that goes. Oh, man. Like,
instead of just a dumpster fire parade, they're like, no, you're kicked out of the league now, my dude.
Oh. I would love that for American sports, but I don't know how Americans would react to that.
Oh, it would never happen because each league, like, every time the XFL has come up, even before I knew what the hell it meant, like when it first came out, I was not aware enough about the sports organization to care. I was just like, okay, they don't wear cups and they have some dirty words that they allow there. Okay, that's interesting. It's amazing the amount of technology that went from the XFL into the regular NFL. Like, mic'd up helmets, more on field,
the spider cam.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it was innovative in its own right, and I'm a little bit sad that it kind of got the kibosh put onto it, but it's supposedly coming back. The whole Rock ownership group buying it. Like, I'm excited about it because it'll force it. Because anytime there's not competition, and I don't mean on the field, I mean in terms of organization and leagues, things tend to stagnate. I think that's been one of the NFL's biggest issues, to be perfectly honest. So forcing them to do that.
I don't know how you can say the NFL's been stagnant.
Yeah, they've been seeing. I mean, honestly,
did we not just see what the Denver Broncos sold for? And they are not worth that.
That's true, but also how much do you chalk up to that inflation tip? I'm gonna be honest with you.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, like, they've been seeing not necessarily total stagnation in viewership, but obviously it's not the huge draw that it may have been at its total peak. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's issues because people are like, it's the same, and the new people who might be getting interested in getting involved, it isn't there because there's not that forcing them to go out and get them. They're like, well, we are what we are. We own a day of the week kind of mindset there. So they're not being forced to stay nimble and stay hungry kind of thing.
They basically own 3 days a week.
That too now.
Which is insane.
I'm just thinking about that quote from what was it? Concussion.
Yeah.
We own a day of the week. But
we own the day God's supposed to own.
Right. But so the idea of it being that there be multiple systems, I don't think it would ever happen with leagues, because then you get these huge mega leagues that are like, no, we're like, I have to be on top or it's not happening at all. So that would almost never happen. But really, that's the reason it exists in Europe, because it's ground up as opposed to top down.
I was surprised that, like, whenever MLS started here, that they didn't do something like that, like with the USL, right? Because it seems like they had the opportunity there. I'm not just saying it because the Locomotive are good, and they've been good.
Yeah.
But I I'm not a huge soccer guy, and I even know that a lot of the teams in soccer have just been like historically bad
Well, that's
for years, right? So I'm like, if you had that model set up for you, and you're bringing the European game here, why wouldn't you have done that and like introduce that and basically kind of force the hand of a lot of these
Yeah.
teams? Because I think that would have been cool for minor league baseball as well. You would have seen minor league baseball kind of thrive if there was a possibility of a team making it to
Exactly.
the next level. So the year that the Chihuahuas won the championship, they had that one game where they played against, I think it was the Yankees farm team, or maybe it was like Memphis or whoever it was that they lost to for like the ultimate championship, right? Imagine if like those two teams would have been playing for a chance to be in the MLB.
Exactly.
But then you take away the farm system, right? Because then what would happen to San Diego?
Oh yeah, no, it would totally upend everything the way MLB is. Like again, that's why I don't see it existing with any major league unless someone comes in. We're not even talking about billionaire money. We're talking trillionaire money at this point.
Bezos, come save us.
the love child of Bezos and Musk that gets all of their inheritance coming out and saying, no, I'm going to upend American sports. Like that's the amount of money / dropping nukes from orbit. If you don't agree with me, like it's going to take coercion of that magnitude to make that happen on the Elon Musk Bezos space empire. Essentially, all that aside, it's going to take that level of money and influence to make that happen with existing leagues, except for college football, because I mean, honestly, I think the NFL has been kind of screwing themselves for years on not just saying like, yes, you are our farm system, like not acknowledging that, just like, well, y'all do your nice thing and then we're the big boys and maybe you'll get to come to us. Like, honestly, I could see this even maybe overtaking the NFL if they do it right, because the NFL, sure, people are going to stand it, but it's the same kind of thing. You live there, you work there, your family loves it kind of thing, and it's missing that whole level. It takes innovation. It takes something new to keep drawing people in, and I see this potentially doing it, again, all massive asterisk caveat, if they do it right.
I would love, like, now that you've kind of planted that seed of chaos into my brain, I find a way to nurture it and water it and
Absolutely.
turn into a forest of chaos, right? I would love to see that model, right? Like you go with that college football model and then you put it to the test.
Yeah.
Because we don't care about these. There are few people out there that care about the well-being of these athletes. Very few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the NASCAR model. Like, oh, that one was a nasty hit right there. Like, it's almost gleeful.
Yeah.
You watch for the crashes.
So I would love to see if there would ever be the possibility of like a college football all-star team going up against whoever is like in the NFL, like whatever team in the NFL wants that smoke. Actually, I wouldn't even say wants that smoke. You force them.
Yeah.
And then what you can do with these college football all-stars, as long as they're seniors and they're going to leave college football, is create a team with them. So now you got dudes like on the Cleveland Browns, again, the hypothetical, whoever the worst team in the league, Jacksonville, right?
Sure.
You got these dudes on Jacksonville fighting for their damn life and livelihood to be replaced by this team of all-stars if they lose to these college kids. I am all here for like the gladiator spectacle that we could turn college versus the NFL into.
Ooh. It's one thing to admit you watch NASCAR only for the crashes, Tip. It's another to say, and I want more.
It's another thing to plant the crashes.
Exactly. And we have now mined the track.
But you see, like, wouldn't that be cool? Like, wouldn't that be like an extension of, again, if it's all about money, let's just make it about money. These guys want to play this game for an opportunity to be in the NFL. You got people that are going to be hungry to get there, and you're going to have people terrified of losing their jobs. You talk about creating the most dramatic possible sporting event there is, and hell, I would extend that out to baseball. I would extend that out to the NBA.
Yeah.
Because as fans, what do fans always say? Oh, these professional, I like college sports because it's not about the money. Throw that away. Throw that excuse that you had away, because yes, it is. Now, because this is what they say about, like, professional sports. Oh, well, Zeke got a contract and now he doesn't want to play anymore. Okay, let's put that to the test. The Dallas Cowboys want a new running back. Let's scout this one guy over here, have him play head-to-head against Zeke. See what happens. Maybe instead of the draft, You can have like a NFL Hunger Games here. Now I'm going like super.
Yeah, now we're
So you can be
NFL
like
Survivor.
So you could be like, okay, I don't like this contract that XYZ has, but I do like the possibility of having a younger kid come in here who's a little more hungry than XYZ. And we can have them just, play. If they lose, if all these professionals lose, then the teams get to, instead of drafting them, just bring them in, take on their contract.
I mean, essentially, we're getting right down to the idea of a locked cage ladder match with the case at the top of the contract there, Tip.
I mean, you know the way that I am. Why not?
Sign me up. Yeah, I know that's what you're thinking.
Stephen Michael Puga saying, I'm going to miss the shadiness that came from the under-the-table boosters. You know what? I don't think it's ever been really shady. I just think now that it's like wide out in the open, you get to see how disgusting it really was.
Yeah.
But everyone always knew that it was there. But now that it's
yeah.
wide out in the open, like there's no way in hell, none, that Grambling State gets the best quarterback in high school football to commit there a year before he graduates. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way, he's got $1 million NIL deal. That's how all this stuff happened. I would love to see what the NIL deal is with Arch Manning in Austin, because he has no connection there. Archie played in the SEC. Peyton played in the SEC and at Tennessee. And Eli played at Ole Miss, which was Archie's alma mater. Why the hell would he come to Texas? Oh, it's because they're in the SEC and they got a boatload of money.
Yeah.
So I would love to. I think I wouldn't be surprised if his NIL deal was like $2.5 million, just to be Arch Manning.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Now all we need is a UTEP boosters to start doing some more. Like who's a UTEP person that we can get, just be like under the table? I guess not even under the, like, we'll give you a car if you come here to UTEP, but it has to be like a nice car. It can't just be like a Chevy Cavalier or something.
Yeah. It's a Pinto.
You get a Pinto. You get a Pinto. Who owns the most used car dealerships on Alameda, El Paso?
Oscar Leeser, we know what you need. We need you to do.
Yeah, you really want to save the city, Oscar Leeser? Here's your way. God, could you imagine?
Yes, I can.
Who owns the most rental properties in El Paso? Let's start doing some NIL deals with these people.
I am totally opposed to underhanded donor support, says quarterback, talking from his top story penthouse with his $1,400 car a month car payment parked out front.
It's such a high car payment, Andrew couldn't get through it.
Exactly.
It's just mind-blowing to think that that's like where college sports is right now.
Oh, yeah, it's been again, not new. It's just been this increasingly badly kept secret.
Stephen Michael Puga saying, let's get Paul Foster to help out Utah.
I mean, look at the top incomes in the region and figure out, okay, who needs to be on these booster rolls more.
I just can't wait to see what the Texas Techs, what the Baylors, New Mexico States, like these other universities are going to be kind of like fledgling around, like what they're going to do to try, like just try to survive this.
Yeah.
I love it. You have no idea. Like, I was so happy. Whenever I saw that yesterday, I was like, thank God. Because now that means Arizona's probably going to leave. Like all these other, because there's no need for the Big 12 as it's constituted to stick around.
Yeah.
There's no need. You lost your diamonds, right? You lost Oklahoma and you found a way to lose Texas. After, not too long ago, you lost Colorado, you lost Nebraska, you lost Missouri, you lost Texas A&M. In the last decade and a half, they've lost half the schools that made up the Big 12. And like the pioneering schools that made up the Big 12. Pretty soon, I'd like to see Oklahoma State in the SEC. Why the hell not? You get that bedlam rivalry with Oklahoma. Why wouldn't you? And I think what's going to happen is Texas Tech is probably going to have to be like a bring back the Southwest Conference that we used to have way back in the day that UTEP was a part of, with Texas Tech, with Air Force, New Mexico, and Mexico State. Make those your big diamonds in the rough. Bring in like Grand Canyon University and like all these other schools that are trying to get up there and trying to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, I felt that in my soul though.
Yeah, that's the way it's got to be though. Like if you're these smaller universities, the UTEPs, New Mexico States, you're in survival mode. Because now you know, like, even if you do have Paul Foster and like all these huge donors, you don't have the amount that Texas has, that Alabama has.
Yeah.
You can't compete with them. And they're just saying right now, they're just waving their junk in your face and being like, you can't do it like I can. Basically, the SEC and Big Ten just got like a lifelong injection of Viagra in this measuring contest. Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to get the bigger schools.
That's true.
It's a death nail in the coffin of the ACC if Clemson leaves. Pugo was saying that, like, oh, they're bringing in new schools. Who cares? The ACC is only major in basketball. That's it. Because you got say that's it. It's $1 billion enterprise for 1 month.
But comparison, yeah.
But in basketball, you got Duke, you got North Carolina, you got NC State. Duke is not a good football team, and North Carolina is not a good football school. NC State's not. Virginia's not. Virginia Tech, like all these schools that are in the ACC are not good at football unless they're Clemson. And maybe at some point, Florida State, maybe Miami. Miami's going to have a head up on everybody when it comes to NIL deals and recruiting.
Yeah.
Because now they could just be wide out in the open and be like, look, we're Miami. We got mountains of cocaine everywhere. Like, come on out here and have yourself a good old time in Miami. Who wouldn't want to?
Make sure to watch that one Blue Mountain State episode about oil changes.
I don't think I've ever seen Blue Mountain State.
Oh, you need to see Blue Mountain
Do I
State.
need to?
Absolutely. Go. Like, it is the heavily satirized, but inside chaos specifically of these deals and all of this. Like, you'd be about it. I think I've got it on DVD somewhere. I'll have to dig it out.
Got it on DVD. I'm sure I could stream it, Andrew. Again, it's not 1840.
Yes, because they had DVDs then. Like, I'm not talking about a gramophone, my dude.
One of those movie projector things. I had to do a thing the other day talking about like technology and the advancements in technology. I found like those magnetized phones that they had to like wind up and all that. I was like, and now you can do literally everything on this.
Yeah, it's true.
Imagine how big that damn thing was, like the original computers and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, room size.
1,800 square feet. That's bigger than most people's houses or some people's houses.
Yeah. Okay, apparently it's streaming on Amazon Prime if you're going to be that pedantic about it.
There we go. I was going to say Blue Oyster State. The hell's Blue Oyster?
I mean, you're thinking Blue Oyster Cult. Don't Fear the Reaper.
Ah, okay. Yeah, see, so a little bit of both. I'll watch while listening.
Oh my God, it matches up.
I played it backwards and it was talking about NIL deals. All right, let's get the final segment.
I want to say, is this just it? Are we just going to cut up this segment and put it on air?
God, I want to. You have no idea.
It's a good segment.
All right. Final segment because of the interview that y'all didn't get to hear. Listen to the show. Trust me, it's a good interview. I'm going to be playing snippets of it as we lead up to the day for the run for Sarcoma.
Yep.
So I'll get started here.
Live from the Fox Sports 1380 studio.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, airplanes. It's a Duckburg.
It's the tipping point.
Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales, woo. Every day they're out there making
Sports.
With Mike Tipton.
It is the tipping point with Mike Tipton, Fox Sports 1380. Thank y'all so much for tuning into the show. Don't forget that the tipping point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by our friends over at 3 Missions Brewery, 10179 Socorro Road. It's finally here. The watermelon wheat ale has arrived at 3 Missions Brewery. However, tomorrow they're going to be closed because they will be down in Socorro, my neck of the woods, as the lone alcohol and adult beverage provider for the city of Socorro's Fireworks Spectacular. So get on out there to Cougar Park in Socorro and check out the amazing selection that they're going to have. It's not just going to be their beers, not just their craft beers. They've also got all the domestics that you're going to want as well. They'll have margaritas. They'll have wine. They'll have palomas. They'll have everything that you want out there at the Socorro or the city of Socorro's Fireworks Festival. That again is at Cougar Park 10685 Socorro Road. Doors open at 5 p.m. For more information, call 915-860-8615. I guarantee you it's going to be a blast. I had to say that just to be
Absolutely.
absolute cheesy. So I mentioned we get rid of the NFL. At the beginning of the show, you had to have college football doing what it's doing, and you had to have the NBA doing what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant.
Oh, yeah.
Throwing out bombs, utterly destroying what everyone thinks about Kevin Durant, because ultimately, at the end of the day, he is nothing but a huge troll. Kevin Durant said while Kyrie Irving was exploring trade options, what a surprise. Nobody wanted to trade for a guy that played in 100 games out of a possible 300 and some.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. A third of the games that he was eligible in, he hasn't played in. Wow. Or I guess 2/3 of the games.
Yeah. When you put it that way.
He wanted a max deal. He wanted to be able to just sign a huge contract and get paid to not really play basketball as a very unreliable individual. Nobody wanted to trade for that. What a surprise. Kyrie Irving says, I'm going to opt into my player option because that's what I have, and I'll get paid my $37.6 million to be a headache for the Brooklyn Nets. During that entire process, Kevin Durant was saying, while he's doing that, I'm going to monitor the situation, and I'm going to think about my option. That made it seem as if Brooklyn didn't re-sign Kyrie Irving, that Kevin Durant would leave. Curveball. Brooklyn re-signs Kyrie Irving. He signs his option. Kevin Durant comes out a couple days later and says, I want the F out.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange to me because Kevin Durant has 4 years remaining on his contract extension that he signed last year. Brooklyn doesn't need to move him.
Yeah, that's true.
You can make him sit there and play. You could fine him for not playing games. That's part of the contract language that's in the NBA contracts.
But do you really want to be involved in that kind of a situation?
No, you do not. That's why you have to trade him if you are the Brooklyn Nets. But the options are so limited because of the amount of money that he makes.
Yeah.
And because their trade that they had last year that brought them Ben Simmons. A new rule must have popped up out of nowhere that nobody paid attention to in the NBA that was talking about rookie deal contracts.
Really?
Ben Simmons has a max rookie contract. You cannot have two players from the same draft or newer traded to a team if they both have signed a max rookie deal. Which means the waters for the Brooklyn Nets to go fishing in here. They can't go to Miami and get a guy like Bam Adebayo because he is in the exact same draft class as Ben Simmons and sign that contract, that max rookie contract. They've got like maybe 12 teams out of the 30 that they can do a trade with.
Dang. Okay.
And if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant said, I'd want to go to either Miami, which you were not going to be able to get a deal done to, or Phoenix, which you're not going to be able to get a deal done to, because he wants to go get himself a championship. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm calling up like Sacramento. What are you going to give me for Kevin Durant? Let him be your headache. If you're the Kings, do you take that? Nope. If you are the Phoenix Suns, and let's just go with the hypothetical that they're able to work everything out and the sun shines on the dog's ass and Kevin Durant is able to get traded to either Miami or Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want that headache?
I mean, that cuts the value precipitously in my mind just right off the bat.
We are joined by one Walter Alvarez, who just walked in, didn't realize that he was on a live stream. He already knows the rules. I don't know if I'm going to be able to plug that mic in right now, Walter, so you're going to be on this.
Oh, I have nothing to add to the conversation.
Oh, yes, you do. We were talking about relegation.
Talking soccer.
We're talking about the possibility of relegation happening in college football now that you've got these super conferences. Is there a benefit to relegation? As a guy that's like the super soccer guy, the guy that can let me know all this stuff, I know the English Premier League has all those things happening with it. I don't know how many teams get relegated, how many teams get called up. Explain to me what relegation is in the most layman terms possible as someone who doesn't believe in soccer.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on this. I've just been following the Premier League just for a few years now. But what I understand is I think the bottom 3 or 4 teams that finish the league wind up going to the the league that's under the Premier League.
That many?
I think so. And now, but here's
Wow.
the other part: the teams that are on the lower league, they have an opportunity to go advance and move up to the Premier League. And this is like this, I believe, in the Spanish league and the Italian league, if I'm not mistaken. But it does add an amazing level of excitement to the seasons. Think about it. If you're on the bottom, think about it. In NFL, if a team sucks, what do they have to go for?
They get the number 1 pick in the draft.
True. Okay, they got that going for them. But what if they're out of the league?
That's even amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And what if you're in a junior league and you have an opportunity to make it to the big leagues? Right? So it adds a level of excitement on both ends of the team how would you say team rankings, right? You got your best that are rooting or trying to make it to win the championship, and the ones on the bottom don't want to get relegated. And then on the other league, the junior league, the lower level league, the top ones are trying to make it into the top 3 so they can advance. So it does add, I think, an amazing level. It makes you pay attention to teams that maybe wouldn't have normally be a paid.
So there's like multiple tiers then, because I thought it was just like, oh, you have like this bottom league and then you have like a higher league, but like you can like move up like 3 different leagues.
Where soccer is like a religion. I don't know how many leagues down it goes. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
Andrew kind of brought this up because we're talking about the chaos of college football right now. I love that thought process. I would love to see UTEP maybe move up into like the SEC. Could you imagine? And like, I also have to feel it. So like, if you're the best team in like this lower tier, right, and you finally get promoted up, are you there for like an extended amount of time to kind of get your footing, or if you just suck that next year, you just put right back down?
So. I think that's the way it works. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cutthroat. I love it.
You're out. Can I make a plug?
Yes.
Okay. This weekend is the Rock and Roar event at the El Paso Zoo. They're going to have a lot of music. They're going to have entertainment. They're going to have a lot of games. Great family event. There'll be alcohol too. So if you want to, to have a brewski or whatever. So I have tickets. I don't know if you want to give some to if you have listeners you can give away to, but we can do that if you'd like, or I know you have a family. If you'd like to, I'll give you some. So, but anyways, if you don't have anything going on tomorrow night, it is a great event to go to. If you haven't been to the zoo in a long time, it's cool to go to the zoo, period. But then it's even cooler in this type of atmosphere with music and drinks and food and games. So
are they going to have fireworks? I don't think they're going to have, because I think that would startle the animals, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would. Now, the interesting thing about where they are, that's a great question. I'm going to try to get an answer before the end of the show. I think where they're located, they may be able to see fireworks that are going off not too far off. And there's a park like next to it. So, but you bring up a good point about the animals. You don't want to, because lions running loose because they're scared.
We have no chance against the majority of these animals if they decided to uprise against us.
Yeah.
Thank God they don't have opposable thumbs. Is that really what separates us from everybody? This right here.
It makes a difference.
The biggest difference in the world. Walt, thank you so much for that. Everybody go out there, check out the Rock and Roar event tomorrow at the El Paso Zoo. What's the time for it?
I think it starts at 6 p.m., 6 or 6:30. Yeah, 6:30. 6:30. It's from 6:30 to 10:30.
I don't want to hear from anybody in the city of El Paso or surrounding areas that there's nothing to do, because you got Pop Goes the Fort. You got the City of Socorro's fireworks stuff that they've got going on. You don't want to go out to either one of those places. Go to the zoo, hang out with your family, have yourself a good old time. We'll find a way to get rid of some of these tickets, give them out to some people. I guarantee you it's going to be a fun time. I love going to the zoo. I actually have a zoo membership. And it has paid for itself over the last, I think I've had it for 5 years now.
Yeah, your son's like an animal savant.
Oh yeah. So like we go to the zoo, we have a good old time. They got like the splash pads and stuff like that.
Are you sure the kid's yours? Because he's pretty smart.
I've always had my questions there whenever it comes to that.
You're a brilliant guy, Mike. I'm a big fan. Hey, keep doing a great job with the show. We appreciate you. We're glad you're back on the air. And let's chat again soon. I'll get out of the way to get Mr. Andrew back on.
Well, you took the majority of his time. Poor Andrew. Now Andrew's got nothing to do.
Well, it gave me a chance to look up something. There are 11 league levels in the English system.
Holy hell.
So if you think you're falling off the top one, you think like, okay, we're in the lower league now. Can't get much worse. Oh no, it gets worse. You can go 11 levels down.
Could you imagine, like, if you're that team and like there has to be, right, in the history that there has to be.
Let's put in perspective of the Browns here, just real quick.
Yeah, there has to be like a Cleveland Browns level team there, because look at how bad Cleveland was following the 80s. In the 90s, their team got moved. They went to Baltimore. They left the entire city. I would love to know if there's a team Because I feel like there has to be, right? Like a team that was just dominant in like 1913 and then just fell off the face of the earth and is in like that 11th bottom league, like that very bottom league, the 11th one, where it's like me and you can go out there and score 20 goals a game.
Also, just to put it in perspective here, because this is even thought 11 levels was nuts. There's a possibility to even fall below it. And also within this system, the amount of football clubs, soccer for American audiences, 1,862 are all technically within the same level league structure.
This might be the thing that makes me start watching soccer and keeping up with it, because again, like if there's that many, I thought it was just one,
No.
3 or 4. Your bottom like third of a league can just be taken away for not performing. And this is what I was getting at with like the NFL draft, right? Like if you're the worst team, you get rewarded.
Yeah.
Take that away. I think what it should be is like if you won the Super Bowl, you should get number 1 overall pick.
I mean,
because teams are going to come after your players.
No,
your team is going to get decimated. So why not give them the number 1 overall pick?
And also, I mean, like, what was it? In the last few seasons, I want to say there was at least some team that was like, screw it, we're just going to tank it because, well, at least we'll get number 1 draft pick and we'll start rebuilding that year. Like that ticked a lot of people off.
That's good. That's the San Antonio Spurs this year. For people that don't know, the San Antonio Spurs traded their all-star DeJounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks. They got a boatload of draft picks. The reason why is there is a consensus number 1 overall draft pick no matter what happens in college basketball this upcoming year. They already know who's going to be number 1. It's a guy named Victor Wembanyama out of France. 7'1", 200 and about 30 pounds, so he's not super skinny. Can dominate a game. Averaged 44 points a game.
Woof. Okay.
12 assists, 18 rebounds, and 7 blocks.
Dang.
You are getting, if you get this guy, more than likely a game-changing type person because he is good.
Yeah.
And he's 18 years old. Yeah. Dominating the English, like dominating Europe the way that Luka Doncic was.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs are tanking for that. Hopefully they get it, because the last time they did this, they were able to get Tim Duncan. So go Spurs, go. It's going to be hard for me this year, man. I hate seeing tanking, but like if you actually have a plan in mind, okay, cool. Let's see how it goes.
I guess sucking for a purpose is better than just sucking.
Kind of like this show. Huh.
Hey-o.
Makes sense. But don't forget, everybody, that the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton is brought to you by our friends over at Gentleman's Republic. It's the dog days of summer, and what better way to take care of yourself than making sure that your feet are nice and smooth and taken care of. For July, they have a special. You go in, you get a pedicure, you get a half-off manicure. I used to get manicures. Whenever I played baseball, I had to make sure that my hands were nice and taken care of. Okay. I love getting manicures. I love getting pedicures. I hate feet, but I want to make sure my feet look good, right? So go on out there, check that out. Half off whenever you buy a purchase of a gentleman's pedicure over at the Gentleman's Republic, 1712 North Mesa. It's centrally located, a top-notch facility. I'm getting my manicure, pedicure on Monday. They're open on the 4th of July. Not very many barbershops are. But what better time to take care of yourself, to get ready to go out to the Rock and Roar event or Pop Goes the Fort where our friends Melt Your Belt are going to be.
Yep.
Or maybe even down in Socorro where our friends Three Missions Brewery are going to be. Make sure you're looking nice and good.
Absolutely.
Take care of yourself. Or if you're a lady listening to this show, which my demographics would probably say you are, get that man in your life, spoil him, treat him as the bearded king that he is, a king for the day at the Gentleman's Republic. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to the Tipping Point of my Tipton Fox Sports 1380. This is going to be a hard one for me to edit.
Good luck.
Thanks, Andrew. We'll see you all next week. Dude, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
It's like, oh, wow, you're talking